Dan Larson here at the photo booth with several of the 6-inch Boba Fetts that have been released since 2013. The most obvious omissions here are the Disney Store exclusive Elite diecast figures, which just did not appeal to me personally. Not a fan of all diecast action figures, and the price point was more than I wanted to pay for figures that I didn't want. So they were an easy pass for me. Starting from the left, we have the 2013 Hasbro Black Series Empire Strikes Back costume. This was this is the first regular release. As far as I know, there's no difference between this one and the SDCC version released the same year that came with the Han and Carbonite, nor is there any difference with the Archive edition released earlier this year. Maybe a slight variation in like how the paint wash, the grinds up the pants, the sleeves, whatever. It's not a significant enough difference that I thought I needed to buy that again. I know, shocking, coming from me. Number 2 is the 2015 Revoltech. Pronounce it however you want. I don't care. Empire Strikes Back costume. Up third here is the these are in chronological order, not like ranked order or anything, except for this one. Number 3 is the 2015, and if you had asked me, I would have said there's no way these two figures came out the same year, but YouTube video review dates don't lie. Bandai Model Kit, Empire Strikes Back costume. We're going to skip this one, go here. This is the 2016 Mafex, pronounce it however you want, I don't care. Empire Strikes Back costume. Next to that, same year, 2016 Mafex, Return of the Jedi. And then on the end is the earlier this year, 2019 SDCC exclusive Hasbro Black Series Kenner homage figure. And then in the middle, the most recently released and brand new to me, I just got it yesterday, 2019 SH Figuarts Return of the Jedi Boba Fett. If you're looking at all these figures and just now realizing that there are two different suits, what's the difference? How do you tell the difference? There are color variations. That's not the best way for me to tell. Easiest way for me to tell which is Empire Strikes Back suit always has the pockets in the front. Return of the Jedi has the pockets on the side. And the Jedi suit, so Empire suit has like a gap in the tiny pockets, in the utility belt pockets. Return of the Jedi has pockets all the way across the front. And then the left gauntlet is different. Return of the Jedi has like this sort of block. There's this sort of block piece here. I don't know what the actual function is supposed to be. I could bring up Wikipedia. Not really that interested. Empire Strikes Back has this series of tool things, blow torches. I don't know what they're supposed to be, but there's lots of little silver pipings along the side in the Empire Strikes Back version. Anyway, and the gun. The gun is always different. Return of the Jedi has this gun. Empire Strikes Back has this. Return of the Jedi has this thicker barreled, rib-bridged gun, and Empire Strikes Back has the barrel that's like same size as the sight, whatever, it doesn't matter. So differences here. So the obvious first difference here is the height of the Figuarts. Figuarts tends to run, they are an import brand out of Japan. They tend to run shorter anyway. The whole Figuarts line tends to run shorter. So if you're looking for compatibility with Black Series or any of these other lines, that might not work for you. In terms of articulation, there is a whole spectrum of good and bad here. I will say this, in terms of movie accuracy, it's hard to beat the Mafex figures here. They look super sharp proportion wise. Boba Fett has always got like skinny, scrawny little legs. If you look at the photos, it's such a weird top-heavy design between the rocket pack and the giant helmet and the shoulder pads and everything. And he's like a triangle that is flat at the top and the point is at the bottom. Just the whole design is weird, and he obviously was designed more for the silhouette, the way he looks, the story that's told with the costume, more so than the actual functionality of that suit. I don't want to get into any of that, but the shoulder pads tend to anchor differently on all these figures. Black Series has them built into the arms. Mafex has them built onto the torso, and then Revoltech as well has them on the arms, and then the Bandai puts them as individual pads that are attached to the actual So you can see that the pads actually can be lifted up as you're, and that's, I would attribute that to the difference between Poseability versus Playability. I think Hasbro still has a mindset that figures like these do still need to have a certain degree of playability and be handled by, a wider age group of people. Whereas I think Bandai and I feel like the import brands recognize that these figures are more adult collectible figures. And therefore, don't mind, having tinier, more dangerous pieces that can be easily broken or lost, come off the figures. And then also have articulation that is designed more around the posability of the figure as opposed to the actual handling of the figure and playability. You can have, and I mean, Revoltech's a great example of that. You can put this thing in all kinds of crazy poses, and trying to find just a basic standing pose is nearly impossible because it's really designed to have, that flexibility to put in all sorts of weird poses. I liked this figure for a long time, obviously because it was one of the only 2 figures that were available. But to me, it's always been like Boba Fett via Robot Chicken. Like the proportions are weird. He's gangly. He's got gaps. These shoulders are just an absolute mess as far as human anatomy is concerned. There's no good way to get those shoulders in a position where they don't look like that. But he's fun to pose and fun to play with it. But he's definitely, undersized, and you can't, like, his legs just don't want to get any closer together. Mine actually fell over at one point, and I got to fix his rocket here because it's just about to break off. It's just, it's fun. And it was nice for the time, but that figure definitely feels very out of date at this point compared to some of the other releases. Bandai model kit is really nice. It's got a lot of articulation going for it. It's not as articulated as the Revoltech. This is it straight out of the box. I didn't apply any paint to this, obviously. The only decals I put on are his couple of insignias here, the kill count on his helmet or whatever the stripes are supposed to be. I did put the dent on, even though I've meant to. Since I got it, I have a little container of silver paint that I've meant to go in and at least hit the accent points with the silver paint. The tips of his boots, the pieces on his knee pads, and then the dent in his helmet, and just, kind of give it a little bit more of this, battle damaged, scratched up, worn look. But I never did that. And, if you take the time to paint this thing, if you're a good enough painter, even just a little bit of a paint wash or whatever, really makes this thing pop and look even more realistic. It's a really good sculpt. It's a really nice piece. As far as it being a figure, which is what I really want out of it, it is very lightweight because it's hollow. And some of these pieces, the rangefinder and, these pins that I don't remember. I think they're supposed to fire out of his knee pads or something, but these things are so tiny I could barely even put them on the model when I was building it, and they have since broken off. Same thing with his the hose for his flamethrower here. That tiny little black hose, it was on there for like a day and a half, and then it broke off. So I'm not a fan of hyper detail at the expense of actually being able to handle the thing, or if it, falls down once, a bunch of pieces break off. That's not really where I'm at with, when I'm picking these things up. Mafex over here, they are absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous figures. There are photos of these things where you can't even tell that it's an action figure. The paint treatment, the sculpt, all of it is just incredible. Again, there's some details that I appreciate, that same hose. I appreciate that it's here, but that thing is it's gonna crack and deteriorate, and it's always coming untucked from the sleeve because it's not much longer than just where it tucks into the sleeve there. And, mine at one point, again, fell over, didn't have it on a stand, and his rangefinder got a little bent. And so from the front, you can't really see that it's bent, but you can see there's a little bit of a bend in that. That's my fault. That's not the design of the figure. But my main complaint, and I think a lot of collectors complain with this, and I think it's a valid complaint, is the shoulder pads being built into the torso piece here, they don't move. They're stuck there, and you can see where I actually had it posed for a bit with the arm pressed up against this, so it has kind of warped a bit and bent it out of shape. Not a huge glaring thing. I still love the way it looks, but that does limit him from being able to move his arms anywhere past, here in terms of putting his arms up. And you just won't get that limitation from some of the other articulation choices, even though these shoulder joints do shift a little bit. But I mean, no interchangeable hands. Yes, 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 no. So basically just the Hasbro one is the only one that doesn't give you alternate hand options. All of them come with the second gun. Oh, this one actually I think came off. Or didn't have it. Now I'm not sure. I was wondering how long I was going to have here with these all standing up, not on stands or anything. But yeah, Fett's usually got this second pistol here on his side. So Return of the Jedi, slightly different paint, slightly different sculpt for Mafex, but same issues. Those shoulder pads are molded into the bodysuit, so it does limit the articulation. So if you're just looking to have him do what he does in the films, and that's sort of stand around with the rest of the bounty hunters, the Mafex ones really are amazing, amazing pieces. They photograph great, but if you're looking for crazy poses and jetpacking through the air and firing off his, grappling hooks or, whatever, then Mafex might not be your best shot. The Kenner homage here is just a ridiculous treat that I feel like they made just for me. Obviously, I know that there are lots of other Boba Fett fans and Kenner fans and whatever, but the collection of Kenner Fetts that I have has just really endeared me to that design and that color scheme. And while this isn't perfectly accurate to the original color scheme, I get it. I appreciate it. It's just it's a gorgeous look. It's still the sort of color pop that, is in my head when I think of the character at all. So it was really neat to see them do this. I hope, I have no information about, a potential re-release of that, but my hope is that with the 40th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back coming up, hopefully that's going to get an actual wide, regular carded release as archive or 40th anniversary or whatever at some point, because I think there are a lot of people who would really like to have that. So anyway, the newest addition to this batch is the SH Figuarts from Bandai, from Japan. And it is a completely different aesthetic, and I appreciate that. We've already got sort of, very cartoonish sort of look. We've got, large physique, tiny physique with enhanced, focus on articulation. We've got closer to movie accuracy. This is a really sort of flat treatment, a very, almost no gloss on this thing at all. Basically just his visor and the gun, I guess. Just not a lot of wear and tear. It doesn't really feel like it's got that worn Star Wars look other than the, scratches and stuff on his armor, which don't really feel like they're from wear. They almost feel like they're just sort of put there because obviously it's an action figure. But I don't mind that because we've already got... There's already so much of that variation going on here, especially for an import figure that you're going to pay $60-$70 for. I don't even remember what this one was, somewhere between 50 and 70. I don't want to buy the same figure again, except for these, but they're different. I want it to be a little different, so I don't mind the slightly size difference. I don't mind the paint treatment. I do like the articulation on this. I like the lack of fussiness. They did skip the hoses here, the hose that would, because this is Jedi, and on the Jedi figure, he's actually got even more hoses. Like, compare the two arms here on this Mafex figure. You've got 3 hoses going tucked into that sleeve from his arm. And, I don't even want to bend this arm because I'm afraid that those hoses are just going to get brittle and crack over time, and they're all going to fall off like they did on my Black Series Jango Fett. So I don't mind that, this, in fact, I appreciate that this figure doesn't have hoses on it, because I want something that is going to be, articulated, fun. It'll be better, easier. I want to be able to handle these things. I don't want to have to treat them so delicately. It's like, where's that balance between, the playability of the Hasbro stuff and the posability of the import stuff? I think this is a really nice, compromise between those two things. I just don't have an issue with it. I love the different takes on the characters. I like the Disney Infinity stuff, Toy Box, Hasbro's new Galaxy of Adventures line that are very cartoony. So I'm more than happy with this figure. Articulated rangefinder, He's got his regular blaster. He has a couple of different alternate hands. Cape-wise, it's always interesting to see how they make the decisions with respect to that. Cloth cape, no cape, plastic capes all along the back here. Mafex, if I had one major complaint, it would be that cape that is just, it's not posable, it doesn't move, it just kind of flares out to the side like that. Doesn't really look very good. This one at least hangs down, and it has a bit of a pivot to it, so you can move it around a bit. So I do appreciate that. I would love to see everybody just move to cloth capes all around. Just put a pin in it, you know, and have a cloth cape hanging down. It doesn't need to be wired or anything, just a piece of cloth. And, you know, a little bit more compromise here. Not quite as big as this one that Hasbro puts on the Black Series piece. But anyway, I like all these figures. It's funny how the perception of each one is changed each time a new one comes out. Which one is best, which one is most articulated, which one is movie accurate, whatever. You know, there's some room for you to make your own improvements and have your own interpretation of those colors or which era or how realistic you want it to look. Variation in price points, it's all good, and I dig them all, and I'm pretty happy with this new Bandai figure, the Figuarts one. And I don't really have a huge collection of imports, honestly. I'm not a completist, so I don't have every single Figuarts or Mafex or Revoltech figure that's been released for Star Wars, but this one I really, really do like. And I think, honestly, I'm going to like it more over time the more I can handle it and mess with it and pose it, and this will probably be the one. This will probably be the one showing up in pictures when I need to go to something that is posable, is somewhat realistic, and is just fun to shoot and to handle, and looks good in pictures. Anyway, thank you for watching this and all our videos. Hit like, hit subscribe, check out our Patreon if you're in the position to help the channel grow. Thanks a lot. Later.